Otherwise, this will come to a very unhappy ending.
Mr. Stephen Ho. Thank you, President. Having heard what Ms. Alan Leong said, I finally came to the conclusion that some of us have awakened. This chamber is really a place to talk reason. We have been attacked by the opposition camp for many years, and Dr. An Jiang said something out genuinely, and then Ms. Leong could not put up with it. I hope that this council can really be a place where we discuss issues. Well, after so many days of occupation, we have suffered a lot. Some say that public opinion support the protesters, and we say that public opinion support stability. Anyway, there are grievances and complaints, and this has really caused a big division in society, and who is to be responsible for that? Even the three organizers of Occupy Central, legislators, and celebrities, even if they apologized 1,000 times, it will be useless. Even if they can realize their ideal, they cannot patch up the damage they have done to society. Of course, how our police deal with illegal assemblies is a topic for discussion. Yet, Occupy Central has caused economic loss and disruption to tens of thousands of people in society. I think what we have in this motion may not be the most pressing issue. 2 days ago, there was the accusation of police torturing an arrested person, and I will deal with that later. Some legislators here are saying the students have ideals, they are peaceful, are rational, reasonable, they are unarmed, and why should the police use tear gas and pepper spray to attack them? And why should the Mongkok protesters be attacked by their detractors? Why were the police biased and lopsided in taking enforcement action? In fact, on the TV and also on the internet, we see many edited footage which we can see ourselves, and even some friends were shocked. Our eyes popped out. But we have to understand that the police we want the police to enforce the law, but we must not be too emotional so that our judgment will not be hampered. Our police have got the trust of society for many, many years, and they are subject to the regulation of many pieces of legislation and organizations. Do you know how long did it take to get this established? You may recall some movies, local movies about corrupt police many, many years ago, and you will understand how different our police are nowadays. And do you know how long did they take to build up this image? So please do not just concentrate on one point and neglect the rest. Take the 9/28 incident as example. There was an illegal assembly, and the protesters kept charging the police, storming the government headquarters, and even the organizers of Occupy Central thought that it was out of control, and if the police didn't take action, then the public at large would think that their safety and interests were at stake. And if the police did not take action, I don't think it would be allowed anywhere else in the world. The police were wounded as well. The protesters were wounded, and they were trying to minimize the possibility of fatalities. A few years back in 2011, there was the Occupy Wall Street. The New York police used all kinds of bean bullets and different arms to clear the ground. And some protesters suffered neurological damage, fractures, and serious injuries compared to what our police have done in clearing the sites. I will say that our police have been very restrained. Some asked whether the police are favoring the detractors. When we went to the occupied sites, we felt that the police was really biased. That man claiming that he loved durian was arrested, and then another person, some other people have got cutters to remove barricades, and they were arrested at once. And then in Long Wall Road 2 days ago, the occupiers had hammers and saws. Won't you say that they are aggressive weapons? So there are different camps of views in society. And I think the administration need to come out to clarify their criteria for enforcement so that we have a better idea. Occupy Central has happened. Many people claim that students are peaceful and rational, and the government should act according to the law. That being the case, in fact, the whole assembly should have been tackled long ago. They have done many unlawful things. They've broken the public order ordinance, the crime ordinance, vandalism. They took the mills barriers to set up roadblocks. To set up their barricade. And they did a number of other unlawful things. For instance, they've set up their own shower room, discharging sewage into our rain drains. If the police were to enforce the law, they should have driven them away long ago. But because people would like us to respect the freedom of expression, legislators are asking this, so they've been very forbearing. And in fact, the protesters are people from all walks of life. Most of them are peaceful and are rational. Some of them claim that they have conscience. Here, our conscience is to uphold the rule of law, and their conscience asks them to pursue their ideal political system. Now, even if they know how to recycle waste, they know how to raise their hands, they do their homework and revision there, they are able to clean the streets. I will only say that they are civic-minded. But do they have any empathy for the suffering of people because of social disorder? I have a friend who operates a small restaurant, and then the protesters apologized in tears to those who are affected. And then my friend saw people playing table tennis and laughing in front of his shop. I'm sure many restaurants are SMEs. I think they have the same feeling. They feel that they are being fooled or tricked by these protesters. I hope that in future, all rallies, assemblies, and processions can be sympathetic of the feelings of other parties. Some people say that this is a color revolution, while the government has not decided that it is a color revolution, and even the scholarism and Federation of Students and organizers of Occupy Central rejected that accusation. However, on the ground outside this chamber, we can see umbrella revolution, those words written on the ground. I had a meeting with a friend recently, and he told me that to launch color revolution, you have to do a few things. First, you stir up discontent in the masses. For instance, high property prices, expensive groceries, so on and so forth. Second, you raise people's expectations for the administration to an extent that it would be unacceptable, such as universal retirement protection. And third, you put all the blame on the administration, asking it to be accountable for everything. Is that all? Not yet. Then you have also got to divide the police and the people. You must cause a division there. Whenever there is a confrontation, our police officers are at the forefront to tackle such events. Now, if members of the public are very friendly with the police, then you tend to hit lighter with your umbrella. But if they're hostile to one another, you will spend no effort in poking him with your umbrella. However, the police have no choice. They always have to be restrained and measured. And lastly, they need a color mascot and a symbol to unify all those who are against the government, to overthrow it. In the beginning, it was yellow ribbon, a piece of yellow ribbon. But because umbrellas were used to defend themselves against OC foam, the symbol has become this yellow umbrella, as we can see in this chamber. Whether it is a revolution depends on your motive, your behavior. It cannot be not a revolution simply because you say that it isn't. Mr. Wong Heng has showed us this book. I immediately went to read it myself. Please explain yourselves what you are doing. Lastly, political conflicts, or no matter how big our political conflicts are, we must not spoil our own camp. Take the student movement as an example. They have all my support for freedom of expression and their freedom to pursue their ideals. It's okay. But if they have gone beyond a certain line, then a rational person, including legislators here, people who are knowledgeable in the community, should stop them. You should not give them a big hand. Now, if you do your revision at Admiralty for the sake of democracy, they claim that they might be boycotting classes. They have not boycotted learning. Now, if for the sake of democracy you've decided to give up your studies and you're not going to school, you're not going to do your revision anymore, good. But for their own ambition, they have blocked all roads, affecting everybody else in Hong Kong. And if they're doing this, you give them applause. You are sending them to the road to hell. Is it really correct? And on the other hand, while we support the police, we say that we support the police, we are not supporting individual police officers as such. Rather, we are supporting the system, monitoring the police officers. It's just like yesterday there was TVB footage claiming that police officers were beating up and arrest a person. Well, it doesn't matter. You just investigate a case to see whether the monitoring mechanism is too lax. We should use our analysis. We should not just use our political differences. Chairman, can you do a head count? We want more members to come back to listen to such distorted arguments. I invoke ROP 17.2. Mr. Stephen Ho. Thank you, President. Now, this is disharmony. I was almost done. Only 2 more minutes to go, and you didn't allow me to finish. Well, last Friday, I think everyone in Hong Kong shared a common goal. We're waiting for this dialogue between the administration and the students. Those who are for Occupy Central or those who are against or ordinary members of the public very much wanted that dialogue to take place so as to settle the whole matter. As legislators, we must have show our commitment. On the 9th, we had elections for chairman and vice chairman of our panels. Well, they won't even wait for 1 more day, and then they came out and started this uncooperative campaign. They gave the government an opportunity, an excuse to shelve this dialogue. All right, you said you accused the government of retracting, and the government blamed you for being insincere. Since it is our common goal for the dialogue to take place, I hope that when another golden opportunity arises, I hope those from the opposition camp can show us some commitment. And I say the same to the Secretary for Security. Please show us some color, your true color, so that you deal with yesterday's incident properly.
Sandy Smack, President. There is a blog in the blogosphere which is written by a mother, and she commands a big following. In this blog, she writes about parenting and parenting of her daughter. She said recently about the class strike. She lives in Zhangguanou, and she's got a son who is in primary 2, and her daughter is attending kindergarten in Wan Chai. So the daughter didn't have to go to school, and the son did. During the suspension of classes, she watches the 4 o'clock news, and like the typhoon onslaught, she would be finding out about the latest arrangement. And the daughter asked why one has to go to school and one doesn't, and it's not fair. Now, one of them attends school in Wan Chai, and she would take her kids to school by MTR, but over this suspension period, the tram service has been wiped out, and she has to take her kids, and the daughter walks pretty slowly, and there was a lot of hassle. I've been following her blog all along, and she is full of all these resentment. And this is a blog about parenting. Hardly ever do we hear any grievances about the movement. Now you may get a feeling that with class suspension, the kids would be having a holiday, but you may not know that for the working parents, they have to make special arrangement for child minding. A lot of us are concerned about childcare in Hong Kong, and you can imagine that these mothers would be facing this sudden caring problem. I've got a friend who's running a cafe in Central. Business used to be pretty good, but today, as of today, she couldn't meet the rent, not to mention other miscellaneous. I have another friend who's running a cafe, an upstairs cafe in Wan Chai, and he's telling me that for 3 days in a row, the business turnover was 0. It is better. Now he can make about $100 or $200 over lunch. I think during this period, a lot of us must have heard some real stories from the community. I've heard also that this is only temporary. What we are doing right now is for the long-term benefits, and this is short-term paying for long-term gain. Now, I think people are suffering before they see any benefits. You talked about this being temporary. How temporary is temporary? Now, on the Golden Week holidays, the business is not that bad, and there are many traders who are doing business. It may be true people refrain from going to Causeway Bay or Mong Kok, and they go to Sha Tin instead. The Newtown Plaza is really bursting at the seam, and there are some shops in Mong Kok that have no business, and people will patronize the other chain stores. Now, in this cosmetic shop starting with an S, it doesn't matter if they suffer in Mong Kok, but because people can go to Sha Tin. But how many SMEs are there that have chains all over Hong Kong? The SMEs are suffering from the heavy rent. Some attribute the problem to the SAR government. The high real estate prices are making the rent pretty high, and they should support this movement, some said. But what's going to happen? Are you going to pay their rent if they support your movement? The grim reality is that they have to face the rental burden, the harassment that they are suffering day in, day out. Some are saying that we are very selfish, we're money-oriented, and at our well is all about a dollar sign. The young kids do have their aspirations and their ambitions. President, I must say that this illegal occupation of Hong Kong is dealing a blow to our economy. The SMEs are facing all these payments by the end of the month in terms of rent and everything. In our community, it is very much torn apart. The social fabric is tearing apart, and in the Facebook, people are beginning to unfriend one another. And on WhatsApp, people are taking themselves off the chat group, and they may be friends for 2-3 decades, and they're falling out with one another because of the differences. I am grateful, though, that my family does enjoy pretty close ties. We may not see eye to eye. I did say before that some of my family members went to Admiralty, and some told me that I should turn them in. Now, what I wish to say is that we have to show respect for other people, family members. We have to respect them. We should have a rational discussion. In my family, I'm glad to say that it is not torn apart because of the differences. We can communicate. We understand one another. After the meeting yesterday, I went home and I had a chat with my family members, and the conversation turned inevitably to what happened yesterday. We agreed that if someone has broken the law, we have to enforce the law without fear or favor. In our community, people tend to get rather too emotional. One of my family members told me that she asked some young people and she asked the friend whether they would be he would be embroiled in a fight there on the scene. Now, the policemen are working very hard and are working really flat out. It's not a matter of not having any sleep or any food and so on. The toughest thing is they suffer from verbal abuse every single day, and they cannot really fight back. That young chap plays soccer with my family member quite a lot, and he said that if people verbally abuse me, I can fight back. But I mean, in uniform, however hard people abuse me verbally, I cannot say anything. They're working hard because of that. Now, when in uniform, he has to keep his composure. He has to stay calm, cool, and collected. I can imagine how much pressure they are under. And I was told that there is this individual who stays in Admiralty for the last 10 or so days. He would go home after work, take a shower, and then head to Admiralty. I would stay overnight in Admiralty, have the ablution in the public toilet in Admiralty, and then goes to work. This goes on for more than 10 days. He doesn't belong to any political party. He's merely getting the feeling of joining the sit-in. He would help with the supplies, and he may be funding a bit of the supplies for philosophical reason. And for so many days, he told me that hardly ever did he see any organizers or any founders of the Occupy Central Movement, or even legislative members. They never see them during the day. When there is a big gathering of people, and he might see them making an appearance on stage or giving an interview to the media. Now, these people are pursuing their ideals, their ambition. I fully appreciate what they do, but for those who are making political capitals out of it, the organizers, the founders, and electoral members, I can't help despising them. Last night there was an academic who talked on stage about the tear gas being fired on Long Wall Road, and he urged people to reinforce the crowd. And we saw on TV how people were charging. Was tear gas fired? Why did this scholar urge people to become reinforcement, and because tear gas was fired? moment ago, Mr. Stephen Ho said that this is a massive movement. One of the members, Ms. Emily Lau, said this is a really a gigantic movement. I don't think we should demonize these students or these protesters, but I don't think we should make this movement sound pleasant. We have to be rational about it. We should not feel the situation. We cannot say that this is really a wonderful, admirable, massive movement, and we should go for it. I go along with Mr. Paul Jay and Mr. Ronnie Tong that we have to cool it down. We should not feel the tension. We have to come up with solutions. Some are feeling the tension that they don't even remember what they said. Mr. Teng Ka-piu said that on the web, the Occupy Central Movement Trio, they published a manual in which they told people to bring along the sleeping bag and not so much the tents. Let's have a look outside. How many tents are there? They are really fanning the flames to such an extent that they're encouraging people to bring along their tents. President, we have to figure out a solution to this illegal occupation movement. We have to bring order back to society. We don't really want the police to be under too much pressure. What we are concerned about is the post-OCM situation. Hong Kong is very much torn apart as a result of this event. Where are we going to be heading to after this event? We could have had rational dialogues. We could have had a platform for free expression, but it has fast become a situation where if you're not with me, you're against me. I mean, we have found ourselves in this horrendous situation. I'd like to urge the opinion leaders in the community, not least the fellow councillors, they should show they should be true to their conscience, and in a rational manner we should get over this crisis. Otherwise, there is no way out for Hong Kong.
Mr. Christopher Chung, Mr. President, the Occupy Central movement is an unlawful movement. It broke out 3 weeks ago. The areas most affected are not just the central, as suggested in the beginning, but in fact, the traffic in the northern part of Hong Kong Island has almost come to a standstill. And at one stage, it reached to Tsim Sha Tsui, where we have tourists. And then, in fact, we haven't yet restored the normal traffic. As a result, many people's daily lives have been much affected. You have to prepare to spend more time on the road when you go to work, when you go to school, and many shopkeepers and laborers have their rice bowl being threatened. It is good to see young people being passionate and idealistic. It is only right for them to be concerned about the future of Hong Kong. They want to take to the streets so as to fight for the ideal elections in their mind. It is something very good in terms of the intention, and they should have our respect. But then the Occupy Central movement has lost its direction, and I think it has evolved into a struggle or a confrontation for its own sake. And in fact, for the past 2 days, the police would like to clear the obstacles in the Queensway. And then the protesters went to Long Wall Road, which is the link between east and west of Hong Kong Island. And they are trying to block different sections of the road, causing confusion. This is causing inconvenience and nuisance to the citizens. It is also endangering the motorists. Well, I think they just want to stir up trouble everywhere. They just want to introduce chaos into the society of Hong Kong. This is to be condemned and stopped. For the student protesters, in the beginning, they echoed the call of the Occupy Central movement. Now they have taken over and they would like to occupy the trunk roads, paralyze the administration, and paralyze the CBD of Hong Kong. They would like to have a war of attrition, and yet they are jeopardizing our economic development. They are disturbing our normal living. The police is enforcing the law. The police is trying to maintain law and order. The police would like to protect the public. So the police should have our support. But of course, we are all very concerned about the approach adopted by the administration and the police in dealing with the campaign. In particular, the level of force deployed by the police. In particular, the force used in clearing the site. As the Secretary for Security has said in his replies to members' questions, on the second day of the OC movement, a lot of people charged at the police. The police exercised professional judgment, and the police exercised the proper judgment and made the proper decision. Pepper spray and tear gas were deployed to prevent large casualties. After emotions have calmed down, the police have changed their tactics. They tried their best to persuade the protesters to leave the roads that they are occupying. But what about the outcome? I think it is clear to us all. We try all sorts of approaches, all sorts of tactics. But have the protesters made any concessions? The Pan-Democrats have always said that when the protesters confront the police, they always hold up their arms and has been peaceful. But in fact, if you look more carefully, the protesters are charging at the police all the time. When the police hold up the warning flag, then the protesters would hold up their arms, causing people have the impression that they are really peaceful protesters. The police are trying to act in accordance with the law, and yet they are hurling verbal abuses at the police. So the police are really exhausted and under a lot of physical and emotional pressure. Is this kind of demonstration peaceful protest? Well, in fact, the Occupy Central movement is affecting us in all aspects of our daily lives. It is also tarnishing our reputation as an international financial center. I represent the securities industry. Well, many retail investors dare not or would not be interested in investment. We still keep a daily volume of $70 million in our market, $70 billion in our market. But then a lot of them are derivatives. In fact, the volume has come down by 20–30%. And then for the Hong Kong-Shanghai Connect, we're supposed to get the news this month, but so far we haven't heard anything. I think we have passed the deadline. It is worrying. We are afraid that this arrangement will be jeopardized. I hope that the Hong Kong government will have more liaison with the central government so that we can see the early commencement of the Hong Kong-Shanghai Connect so as to consolidate our status as an IFC. Please don't let our economy be affected by the unlawful occupation. Otherwise, we will be dealt a further blow, and it won't be good for us. I would also like to say this to the student protesters. The financial services industry is very important for Hong Kong, accounting for 15.9% of our GDP, and it is $1.4 million in terms of the per capita value, and the protests will affect the development of our financial services industry. If the industry is disrupted, if the investors are driven away, then I'm afraid that at the end of the day, young people will have less opportunities to have development in this industry. In fact, our attractiveness have been reduced, our competitiveness has been eroded. So if we allow the Occupy Central movement to spread and to continue, then the society at large, in particular the innocent people, will be affected most. Mr. President, I sincerely hope that we can resolve the problem, and I support the government having a dialogue with the students. But then the premise must be that students must think clearly about the purpose of the dialogue and also the agenda. I don't think the students should change their mind and come up with unrealistic requests. Say, for example, overturning the decision of the NPCSC, or asking the SARG to restart the 5-step process for political reform. The NPCSC decision is a decision made in accordance with the constitution of the country. It has a legal backing. It should not be challenged. We could have, or rather we can have a second round of consultation, and we should try to have the greatest flexibility within the framework of the NPCSC's decision, so that we can have the largest degree, the highest degree of democracy. It takes two to tango, so both the SARG and the students have to show the greatest degree of sincerity to have a dialogue to work for the greatest interests of Hong Kong. Lastly, I would like to be fair, and many protesters have been accusing the police and the administration for being in the wrong, but they themselves are acting unlawfully. They are occupying the roads unlawfully. They are challenging the authority of the police. I think by resorting to such an approach, they would only tarnish their image in the minds of the citizens. This is also disrupting the order of the society, making the society more divided. I think the Occupy Central movement leaders think that the students can become the vanguards. I think things have gone out of control. I think the mess that has resulted should be addressed, and I think they should take the blame. So I speak and I support the police for enforcing the law professionally, and for the police officers, in particular Commissioner of Police, who have been working very hard. I have to tell you that many people are in support of you for maintaining law and order, and I hope that we can restore the order in the society again, so that we won't be disturbed by the unlawful occupation.
Mr. Chen President, call for quorum under ROP 17.2.
陈恒鑌議員。
Mr. Chun-yin. President, a few days ago, I had a gathering with my friends and we discussed the Occupy Central movement. We were so saddened by the polarization in society. We wanted the whole thing to be settled quickly. However, it is difficult. We want it to be settled smoothly. And so we made an assumption. And now, if LegCo resumes, and if we see that society is so divided and people's lives are severely disrupted, will the pan-democrats call upon the occupiers to retreat so that we can restore normal order? We had high expectations. Unfortunately, we discovered yesterday, after Council resumed, that we overestimated the courage of pro-democrats. They have no consideration for the safety of occupiers and the police. Some are adding oil to fuel. They criticize the administration, and today some legislators call this very grand and ambitious revolution. So I met those friends again yesterday. Some expressed great disappointment. Some of them were long-time supporters of pan-democrats. Now, if today they heard how pro-democrats describe this revolution as being grand and ambitious, I think they would even be more disappointed. There was once a local movie called I Can See Ghosts with my left eye. So there are three protagonists, and there are people who could only see ghosts or spirits with their left eye. If they're willing to turn their head a little bit, they were able to see the ghost on the right-hand side. But perhaps those ghosts have interests involved. They might be relatives or friends or anyway related persons. So they were not willing to turn their head a little bit to see the spirits on the right-hand side. So they were only willing to say that there were spirits on the left-hand side, and they pretended not to see the spirits on the right-hand side. And they keep telling people that there is no ghost on the right-hand side. So gradually, they came to believe that the spirits were only on the right-hand side, not the left-hand side. Mr. Alan Leong talked about the causal relationship of the current phenomenon, and he blamed everything on the tear gas of the police, claiming that people have the freedom of assembly. So perhaps Mr. Alan Leong could only see the consequence and not the cause. If there were no organizers for Occupy Central, if people did not flooded onto the roads, if people did not charge at the police, then all these things might not be here altogether. We believe that some of the people out there were urged onto the street by tear gas, but that was not all. Is Mr. Alan Leong being selective when he talked about the causal relationship of this movement? Of course, people have the freedom of assembly, but freedoms are not unchecked. Mr. Leong, being a veteran barrister, should know that there should be prior application for a lawful assembly. And when protesters block the road, that means they have overstepped their freedom. Now, it takes two to tango, and Mr. Leong only put the blame on the police, trying to conduct an open trial of the police in this council. So do you want the police to turn a blind eye to unlawful conduct, and then you are happy, Mr. Leong? Since you are being so selective, in fact, you are conniving these people out there to continue to charge at police cordons and to engage in unlawful acts. Yesterday, there was a suspected assault of an arrested person by the policeman. And then those Pan-Democrats were so swift to act. They called a press conference. The photos of the victim were uploaded to the internet, and then personal particulars and the pictures of the police officers involved were all uploaded to the internet. Even before these officers have been subject to an internal investigation, they are being tried openly by the public. Now, if you want to investigate whether the police have used a lynch, why have you taken things to your own hands and decide to conduct an open trial by the public on the internet? You've already come to a conclusion before the investigation, and I think you have dragged the whole police force into the incident. It's already 20 days into the Occupy movement, and police officers at the front line are exhausted physically, and they have to put up with verbal abuses, invectives. On the one hand, they have to clear the occupied sites. They have to keep an eye on the protesters. They are just human beings. They have to physically stand up to attacks by protesters, and they also have to put up with verbal insults by the occupiers. Put yourselves in their shoes. If you are in uniform, you've been on duty for 30 hours with no idea of when you can go off duty. Physically, exhaustion is one thing. The job is also obnoxious. I'm sure all police officers have a sense of justice. Nobody wants to become a police officer so that they can bully ordinary people. They have all taken the oath to protect the life and property of citizens. They've never dreamt that they're here to protect unlawful people. They may not want to obey orders, but they have no choice. So their frustration is understandable. We've seen an image on the internet where a group of officers going to change shift was verbally abused by protesters, calling them dogs, asking them to go back to their kennels and to remember who paid them, so on and so forth. Do you think that they can withstand such prolonged physical exertion and pressure? In fact, as soon as the footage was out, I was very worried. Have we reached a critical point? Have we crossed the threshold? Perhaps something serious would really erupt. According to my understanding, those suspected officers are really suspended from office or redeployed to other duties. How come legislators are here too willing to protect and pamper those who are openly attacking public buildings and breaking the law? Perhaps these officers have overdone a little bit. Why are you so harsh to them? On the news, I saw Mr. James Toh calling them mobster cops, and the police force have gone out of control, and these people have used torture, and they should be jailed for life. And Li Chak-yen was close to tears. He said he was very sad because there is no regard for law in Hong Kong anymore. Now, if you understand what has happened in these 19 days, you understand why so frustrated the police officers are, and who have gone out of control, and who have no regard for the law. I hope that before you rub salt onto the wound of police officers, these legislators can think twice. If we damage the morale of our police officers, and if they are stripped of their authority, who will be most happy? Who will be happiest? Please search your conscience and try to advise those young people who have a bright future ahead. And there are also people out there who are employees of your ward offices and members of your political parties. Please urge them to go. Please leave Hong Kong alone. Please have pity on us. Of course, political problems should be resolved politically, but please leave it to the Legislative Council, which is here to talk politics. You should not take it to the streets. Thank you.
Mr. Tam Yiu-chung, President, a man has to be through trials and tribulations before becoming an adult. I do have infinite perseverance. I can get over all the difficulties. This is lyrics from a song. I think this is a testament of the sentiment of a lot of policemen. When the policemen are subject to provocation and abuses, they are still displaying infinite fortitude and perseverance. Some organizations do have their own fish to fry, and in large civic movements, they are creating trouble. They are driving a wedge between the police and the protesters, and they're storming the police cordon, and they're spreading untruthful allegations about abuse of power on the part of the police in order to undermine the police reputation. This is all intended to whip up dissatisfaction with the police. Over the past 3 weeks, we've seen the occupation, and this is a testament to that. If you look at the history of the event on the 28th of September, the HKFS started the illegal occupation. Back in January last year, when Benny Tai put forward this idea, the money man, Jimmy Lai, funded the whole event. And last year they went to Taiwan and met the veteran activist, Mr. Xi Mingde. And in the revelation, Jimmy Lai asked Xi Mingde how they could follow the example of their Arabian Spring, and Xi Mingde said that there should be a lot of extras, and he said that for Hong Kong to organize the movement, that there should be bloodshed, otherwise the OCM will not be a success. After the meeting between Jimmy Lai and Xi Mingde, a number of the organizers, like Reverend Zhu Yaoming, Li Chek-yen from the Labour Party, and Joseph Cheng from the Alliance for True Democracy, visited Xi Mingde. Mr. Tam Yiu-chung, Mr. Albert Chen. Well, Mr. Tam is rattling off his speech. Perhaps under 17 too, I should call back Mr. Li Chek-yen to have a listen to his allegation. Mr. Ip Kwok Him, point of order. Now, he is calling a quorum call on the basis of a particular reason. Mr. Chen, you can point out to me that we're running out of a quorum. I don't think you should be taking advantage of this rule of procedure to advance any other arguments. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
代为众议员。
Mr. Tam Yiu-chung. Before I carry on, I must urge Mr. Albert Chen not to carry on like this. And he keeps requesting quorum call, and this is a waste of time. From this, we can see the motive of the Occupy movement is not what the founders have been emphasizing. This is not a movement of peace and love. This is a movement intended to create trouble and disrupt social order. With these 3 weeks of chaos, Mr. Chen Zhou said that the illegal occupation is tantamount to a color revolution. It is they are acting in accordance with the manual. Mr. Chen said that there are different steps and different slogans, and they are forcing the central authorities, and there is some conspiracy embedded in it. The pan-Democrats kept emphasizing that the Occupy movement is intended to fight for true universal suffrage, not color revolution, and this is casting aspersion on the Occupy movement. There are commentators said that from the Arabian Spring, Kazakhstan, and so on, we can see that the illegal occupation has a lot of similarities between the color revolution and this movement. First of all, they are taking advantage of the livelihood issues and try to create confrontations. And they are acting both within and outside the chamber, and they're undermining the government's credibility. They organize the student seminars, and they lure the students into the movement in order to make them occupy the square. They may be starting off with some discussions of democratic issues, and then they move on to create different topics through the internet and through the web in order to gather more crowd. Some analysis suggests that the money man, Mr. Jimmy Lai, and also the pan-Democrats are liaising with the U.S. They have direct or indirect relationship. The U.S. is trying to return to Asia to curb the development of China. And these chaos represent an attempt to start a color revolution in Hong Kong in order to disrupt China. Over the past couple of weeks, the police were on the receiving end of a lot of criticisms, and they were demonized over three things. On the 28th of September, the 87 volleys of tear gas and the use of pepper spray were portrayed as abuse of force. And also in October, in the confrontation in Admiralty, there were suggestions that tri-elements were involved. Third, yesterday or last night, in the morning of yesterday, there were protesters being abused physically by the police. From Facebook, on the 28th of September, in maintaining law and order, there were hundreds of people wearing goggles and helmets, and they were poking the policemen with their umbrellas. They appeared to be raising their hands, but as a matter of fact, some were kicking the police with their legs, with their feet, and some were poking the policemen with umbrellas. And a lot of policemen were injured. One policeman had a gash of 12 centimeters long. The police have to segregate or put a distance between the police and the protesters. It's only inevitable that they use tear gas and pepper spray. As regards the October 13th confrontation, the police try not to provoke the protesters, and before the confrontation, the police deployed limited manpower. So when the protesters for and against the movement broke out in conflict, the police tried to maintain law and order. Because of the sheer number of people, the policemen couldn't get on top of the situation. And the police sent more reinforcement, and the situation improved. Some pan-democrat members said that there was collusion between the police and the triad societies. But according to the SCMP Chinese version, on the 13th of October, the in the movement for and against the movement, there were tri-elements. Now, on the 13th of October, in the Admiralty confrontation, there were tri-elements. If the police collude with the tri-elements, why would the police arrest the tri-elements? I don't think these allegations would hold any water at all. Furthermore, it has been the objective of the police to crack down on the tri-elements. It doesn't make sense that there is collusion between the police and the triads. Finally, yesterday at Long Wall Road, there was a suspected case of a policeman beating up a protester. I'm sure that the CAPO and the IPCC will conduct in-depth investigation. If it shows that the policemen were in the wrong, then this will be dealt with seriously, notwithstanding all these allegations, which were unfounded, and the provocation and abuses by the protesters. The police are still impartially committed to their job and make their contribution to maintain law and order. The police contributions are recognized by the members of the public. After the movement has started, there were people sending their good wishes to the police at different stations. And this is a really heart-rending situation. I can't help thinking about Liverpool motto, "You will never walk alone." I'm sure that we will respect the rule of law, and everybody who respects the rule of law will stand with the police. I'd like to urge those who are taking part in the occupation movement to stop and think twice as to whether they should continue with their occupation. All these demands, civic nomination, is against Article 45 of the Basic Law. In the entire movement, Joshua Wong has become the front page figure of the Times magazine. And on Nathan Road, people are having hot pot and have a good time playing ping pong and so on. What else are they doing? The Occupy movement has choked off the major trunk route. A lot of people are affected in the daily commute, and the traders are also affected. The workers are taking a battering in their takings, in their pay. A lot of public resentment has been created. These illegal activities are undermining and destroying the core values of Hong Kong, i.e. the rule of law. Now, the pan-democrats having this slogan, "above the law," on their desk. I have received something from the members of the public, an expression of his sentiments, and he said that this movement is really detrimental to everybody, and this is detrimental to the whole community. And with this in mind, they should bring a halt to this movement. I urge the protesters to vacate the protest zone will be held responsible, liable criminally. I mean, otherwise it will be too late for them to right their wrong. I urge the police to get to the bottom of who is behind the whole movement and get on with try to find out the liability and be fair to all those who were affected.
Mr. Tommy Chiang. Mr. President, on the 28th of September, it started, and we are now entering the 19th day. To be frank, I'm quite sympathetic towards the police. Unfortunately, they have been caught in the middle. Sometimes we might become too emotional, and then the police might lose their tempers. Now, as to whether the police have taken the law into their hands and have been selective in letting go the offenders of indecent assault and other unlawful acts, I think we need to be practical. I think for individuals, I think the cases should be processed on their own merits, and then the police should look into it. The CAPO, the IPCC should also look into them instead of exaggerating them. And otherwise, we are generalizing the situation. The police have a hard time. The public assembly hasn't been approved, so indeed it is unlawful. The police is trying to enforce the law. It is only right. I have seen people climbing onto the roof of police vehicles, hurling foul language at the police officers. It is unfair to the frontline police officers. Please don't take it out on the police officers. Well, for this protest, the scale and the number of participants and the scope of areas affected, they have all been unprecedented. From time to time, we have clashes between the citizens and the authority, and the problem erupted everywhere. Well, it has been said that the initiators of Occupy Central movement should be grateful to the Hong Kong government. At first, they thought that there would just be a few thousand joining them. On the 28th of September, the administration took a very hard stance, and so many people were provoked, and then tens of thousands of people came out to support the students, and so the Occupy Central movement had to be started. Now, looking back, of course, we could have made many recommendations with hindsight, but then I think the police have been judging the prevailing circumstances and have been revising the strategies. On the 3rd of October in Mongkok, there were many scenes of confrontation, and so the police have to strengthen their manpower. A number of triad-related elements were also arrested. So I think we should allow the police more time to deal with the situation. I think we should be more understanding. They should be given room to deal with the issue. I think the question isn't so much about the police. We shouldn't shift the blame to them. I think if we do not resolve the conflict, which is outside the scene of the protest, the police can't do much about it. I hope that all parties should try to moderate. We should restart a dialogue. We should be realistic, pragmatic, and sincere in the discussion so that we can defuse the situation. The protest should end peacefully so that we can restore social order. Mr. President, recently a group of Hong Kong policemen have rewritten the words of "You Raise Me Up." With resolution, we can unite ourselves with conviction. In times of adversity, we can still move forward. We may find ourselves in a very difficult situation, but we can still cope with it. The police will take on the challenges all the time. We will regard the challenges as a test. We may be humiliated. We may be faced with unfounded allegations. It is not avoidable. We are at the front line. We haven't changed our conviction. Well, I saw this on the internet. You got news of all varieties on the internet. You cannot tell what is true, what is not true. Thanks for bearing with me for a minute or so. Everybody is dissatisfied. It's all because of all the false arguments. Everybody shouting for stepping down. They are always shouting abuses. We need to put up a smiling face. We should encourage each other. We should regard the challenges as a test. We may be humiliated. We may be faced with false allegations. People may have preconceived ideas. I think we should encourage each other. The whole society is complaining and bear grudges. That's because of the false arguments. They just put forward false arguments, but they don't know how to resolve the problem. I'm standing at the front line. I'm true to my conviction. So, no regrets. I'm a policeman. Now, I would like to say a few words to the police. I understand your hardship. I understand that you have a hard time. You have been criticized by the citizens, but I have to show my respect to you. I hope that you can somehow give vent to your emotions, but not through the wrong method. I hope that you will be professional, you will be discharging your responsibilities and your duties as a policeman. Rebuild the relationship between the community and the police. I hope one day the whole community will say that we love you, the police force. Thank you.
Mr. James Tan, President, call for quorum.
點一進議員。
Mr. James Tian. Mr. President, just now Mr. Tommy Cheung sang a song, and it was a pretty difficult lyric, and probably he was stage shy. Well, I've read the lyrics. In fact, the lyrics are very meaningful. I hope that Mr. Tommy Cheung will pass it on to all of us so that we can all take a look. Mr. President, recently I was out of town, but then I left after the 28th of September, and I was most unhappy when I watched BBC, CNN, France 24, Al Jazeera, all these major broadcasters, and whenever there were main news in the afternoon, they were showing scenes of the use of tear gas against demonstrators. And of course, some of my overseas friends asked me, well, this is not Middle East. We are not targeting ISIS. So why is this happening in Hong Kong? That's the common question that they asked. And I said the situation is very complicated. And they asked, has it got to do with elections and so on? And apparently that's it's not as simple as that. Yes, I understand that the subject of discussion today is about the way the administration and the police dealt with public assemblies since since late September. Well, what I can see is that things developed starting from the 26th of September. Yes, I was trying to defend Hong Kong, and I just made a few remarks like, all right, when compared to you, in our case, it's peanuts because, well, there was no fatality, and our demonstrators, when compared to those demonstrators in your place, well, if you look at the conflicts that arose, well, even if they didn't or they had not died, they would have to be carried away in ambulances and so on. But then if you look at the kind of conflicts that we had in Hong Kong, they are no comparison to yours. That's what I said to appease them. But then during the past 2 weeks or so, if you look at what happened, well, many people cannot but ask, well, Hong Kong used to be an economic city. You don't have any conflicts. You don't have ethnic conflicts or religious conflicts. And the only problem may have to do with the wealth gap. And so as this evolved, I talked to some of my friends in the business sector. I've been in politics for so many years. And since before the reunification, I have been in this position. And summarizing what has happened, well, many of us in politics and the administration are at a loss as to what is happening. Is it because many young people have not been able to buy their own homes? Is it because the government, the public, have different views? Or is it because of what the chief executive has been doing, which many people might have a different view, including myself? And as the secretary said in the oral question session, yes, initially there weren't that many people coming out, but then subsequently, when so many more people joined, they might have come from different backgrounds. It's not like Mr. Zhang from the Civic Party. They might have come from different backgrounds, from different quarters of the community. So for these people with different backgrounds, it might have been something that has pent up. They might have some views about the CE's unauthorized building structures or poverty, and also they might not have been able to find a good job, or they might be unhappy about other things that is happening in a community, that are happening in a community. That's why I'm sure later we will have to find out more about why so many people have taken part. And initially, when the organizers of the Occupy Central movement came out to rally support, the Liberal Party was staunchly against it, because we will be giving or setting a very bad example for the younger people, for the younger generation. It will paralyze the economy. It will divide the community. It will also ruin our international image and reputation. We still have more than 100 taxis slow driving on the roads of Hong Kong. And of course, I'm not saying that we have basically got everything right. In fact, I'm also heartbroken, because apparently what we had said about a year ago about what's going to happen if the OCM took place got realized. And of course, whether the demonstration is still peaceful, different people may have different views. Well, to us, by peaceful demonstration, it means that you would just be sitting down without doing anything. And we had never thought that the police would be caught in between. And yes, the students are staging the strike might be peaceful, but then once there are other people joining and they are from different backgrounds, then many people would say that Hong Kong is no longer peaceful. Yes, of course, when compared to overseas demonstrations, we might still be regarded as very peaceful. But then, the police force used to enjoy high credibility amongst the public, and for us, we have to legislate, and we have to rely on someone to enforce the law, and we don't want to be turned into a different place where there are many laws which cannot be enforced, including those on the mainland. Once you have a law that cannot be enforced, then what's the point of introducing or enacting the law in the first place? Recently, I met with some business sector friends, and they said that in Hong Kong, well, something must have gone wrong. All right, you have the policemen, and they are not able to enforce the law. And a couple of years ago, when Mrs. Carrie Lam used to be the Secretary for Development, she said that she would have to remove all unauthorized building structures. All right, even a very small unauthorized building structure would have to be removed and demolished. And yet you have tents out there. How can they not be against the law? All right, you're breaking all the laws, and the Lands Department will tell you that you are breaching or breaking the law, and yet the policemen are not able to enforce the law. Given the tolerance of the government, they have not removed the tents. And if they had enforced the law more strictly, then there might have been a big uproar. So they have adopted this very tolerating attitude. But then what has happened now? Well, many people focus on what happened on the afternoon of the 28th of September, when tear gas was used. Many people were shocked, and they found it unacceptable. But then, as has been explained by the government, all right, tear gas is very commonly used in overseas countries, and if you look at the harm that can be done, is temporary. But then, to people, this is a major thing, and as a result, it mobilized many people coming out to support the students. And then after the 28th of September, the administration turned around and they just withdrew and retreated altogether. No policemen whatsoever. Okay, whether you have broken the law or what kind of law or which law you have broken, all right, the police would just turn a blind eye to it. And in recent weeks, there was serious traffic congestion, and the middle class and the business people are complaining. And I'm sure those of us from the business sector will tell you more. From all the way from transportation sector to retail and every sector, they are all suffering. But then, if this continues, then what can they do? Can they just tell the landlord that they are no longer able to pay the rents? And then the banks will tell you that, can you tell the banks that, sorry, I'm not able to pay the interest. So if this is to continue on a protracted manner, then everybody will suffer. And those from the tourism sector have been telling me yesterday, in fact, I received a call telling me that in December, when the two groups used to come, well, we have to finalize everything now. And now, few people are coming. And if this continues for a few more months, then I'm afraid December, which used to be a popular tourist month, then the catering establishments and many other sectors will be hard hit, and it's not easy for them to recover. So for those joining, please think hard about this. Now, turning to the government in particular, with regard to the police handling of the events, of course, I agree that for any policeman who is dealing with the demonstrators, all right, if you have arrested the demonstrator, all you need to do is to take him to the police vehicle, and that's it. So we would never have expected anything like what happened a day ago to have happened. And as the authorities have said, they're going to investigate the case very seriously, and nobody would object to that. Well, of course, many people said that if you want to investigate, you will have to get to the bottom of the truth. And of course, there are different versions right now, and therefore the administration or the police will have to be fair and impartial in undertaking the investigation. And I hope that the result can be announced as soon as possible. Last but not least, I'd like to turn to one point which is very important. Well, I've been in politics for many years. Since the reunification, we've been implementing one country, two systems, and I've been a very optimistic person about this. And well, after I've returned, it's not just the liaison office people or Beijing officials who have approached me to talk to me, and they are trying to find out more from me. But then, on the contrary, I like to inform members of their views on this. Well, in the past, the central authorities allowed Hong Kong a relatively free hand on most things because of the one country, two systems principle, and of course for people's livelihood and economy or economic matters, they don't want to have a hand in those issues. But then, because the NPCSC has taken a decision on constitutional reform, and the Pan-Democrats find that not palatable, because they think that this is not true democracy, there is screening and so on. But then you will have to understand the central authorities' sentiments, because during the past 10 plus years, we have been under the one country, two systems, and everybody, in particular the younger generation, always think that we have to go for the two systems. All right, there is a generation gap. Okay, so the kids out there are only teenagers, and my kids are in their 30s, 40s, and of course we are in the 50s, 60s. So the Pan-Democrats would also have to give them advice. But then if even you are not able to do it, then the Liberal Party would find it difficult to play the role of a middleman. And the central authorities are thinking that, all right, if you look at the wording, or how they term it, what you call it umbrella revolution, they call it a color revolution. And then the president said that was 11 years ago we had the Article 23 legislation, and then 2 years ago we had the national education incident. All right, the central authorities were prepared to make concessions, but then now it's about how we are going to elect a chief executive and how we are going to return the legislative council. So it's not just about sovereignty, it's about governance. Well, by autonomy, that will not be allowed, because if you enjoy full autonomy, then where does the one country stand? If you only have two systems, then there will be no one country. So I'm concerned and worried, because all along we've been hoping that, okay, so we will pocket this one first, and then we'll see what happens after 2017, and we'll see what we can do to lobby the central authorities in order to make further changes. But then if that's the mindset of the central authorities, then the Pan-Democrats will be taking a step back in terms of their fight for democracy, because the central authorities are taking this more seriously and they are adopting a more hawkish approach, and they will be even more strict. So you will not be able to achieve your objective. And what is even more worrying is that with the non-cooperation campaign staged by some lawmakers here, then we will end up in an autocratic system or an anarchy. These are my remarks.
Mr. Lee Chak-yan, Mr. James Tong,